I'll welcome everyone by telling you my name is Isaac Zablocki. I'm the Director of Film Programs at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. We were supposed to screen this film the night that we closed. As you may recall, some of you had tickets and we had to send you that sad email telling you that we were hopeful, but it's not going to happen. And we're really glad that we were able to do this in some way, which is now doing it virtually as we're doing everything. So please check out our programs and see what else is coming up, because we have many more wonderful programs coming in the next few weeks. And we have a full Israel Film Center Festival coming up June 7th to the 14th. So mark your calendars to put Netflix on hold for that week. And June 7th to the 14th, you'll have the best new Israeli films coming out. And join us for that and for much, much more. Next week, we have coming up our next film, which was another film that we had to cancel just as we closed. And we're going to have very special guests coming in for that. We have Jesse Eisenberg, who's, of course, a major A-list star who we've actually had him once before. And he's joining us for Resistance. He's the star of the film and does an excellent job. So join us for that. The week following, we're going to have the film Abe, which we showed as part of our other Israel Film Festival. And then in the last week of May, we have the film Incitement, which is out in theaters. And we're going to do a kind of whole virtual theatrical run of that with a conversation with the filmmaker. I'm going to share now as we start jumping into things. First I have to share that today is our Giving Tuesday. And our goal is we're asking our community to help the JCC reopen its doors in the best way possible. This is a very tough time and we need as much support of the community as possible. We're asking for the community to support us with $18. We are just over 400 donors. I spoke to our development person, and we're just up to 400, just over 400 donors. And our goal was to get to 500. So if everybody on this call gives $18, I believe we will make our goal. So help support us. You could go to the JCC main page for that. And we'll also share in the chat the link of where you can give. This is a Q&A, so it's a conversation. I'm going to start off with a few questions, and then we're going to open it up to your questions too. If you'd like to ask a question through the chat, you can do that. If not, if you'd like to, and we'll call on you. We'll be able to open your mic. You're muted right now, but we'll be able to open your mic. So as we get closer to the time when it's time to ask questions, let us know if you have any questions. We really hope you enjoyed the film. Those Who Remained, it was the most celebrated film of this year in Hungary, who has one of the most amazing film industries in the world. And Barnabás Tóth is with us here. He's the director of the film. I recommend you all now switching to speaker view on the top right of your screen. So you could see Barnabás in the close-up. He could tell you more about what that means. I want to say also about this film, the film was supposed to open in Lincoln Center tonight, tomorrow, this week. And it's not opening officially, but it will have a virtual release through Lincoln Center. So you have to be sure to tell all your friends to see this film. I thought it was really one of the most interesting and well-made films that I've seen. As someone who I'd say has seen almost every Holocaust film to come out in the last 10 years, and I wouldn't necessarily call this a Holocaust film, I'd call this a post-Holocaust film. The way the family was treated, the post-Holocaust Hungary, in the way this was told, was like nothing that I've ever seen before. And Barnabás, I want to start by asking, what made you want to make this film?
It was the novel. It's an adaptation of an existing book which was published in 2004, and I knew the author before. She's a well-known psychologist. She's 71 or 72 now, and we worked in a theater together. And I knew she was writing some professional books on for her profession, and and I didn't know she had one fictional novel, this novel, and the title is not Those Who Remained. The title would be, if I translated it, it's something like a girl's book of a man's time or something like this. And by curiosity, I took it home and I read it, and it's the film you just saw is a faithful adaptation. So the story is more or less the same of this doctor and the teenage girl. And I was really touched by these two wonderful characters and their very complex relation. So this is it. This the emotional side of the story. It's not the historical background. It's not the transition from one dictatorship to the other. It's not the 40s or 50s which attracted me, but more like this beautiful and pure and clean relationship, if you know what I mean, between an elder man and the young girl.
I'm glad you said that. And the pure and clean, obviously, and I'm seeing some questions from people on the side that that of course you're putting them in the same bed, and in another world that could look pure and clean. Of course, in our world today, an older man with a younger woman in a bed like that, not even a younger woman, a girl, I'll say, that's of course a very tricky topic. How aware were you of that, and how did you approach that?
Of course, we were aware, and but I think in this story the rules are very clearly set from the beginning and by the doctor. I mean, from early on, he's kind of keeping this girl away, and it's always her who approaches him, who always moves her stuff into his bed. But it's almost for the entire, I say almost for the entire length of the movie, it's a pure stepfather-stepdaughter relationship, or even brotherhood, or even they're each other's therapist in a way, therapist. So it's lacking sexuality from the side of the doctor. Maybe from her side there is some kind of curiosity, and she would be happy to be his wife without knowing the physical side of it for a while. And then as she grows, stakes are a bit higher, and as you seen one of the peak moments of the movie, that night when the neighbor is taken by the police, they almost cross the border, but it's then again the discipline and the self-retainment of the doctor who says stop. He's a hero in a way. Back in the 40s or 50s, and he would be a hero even more now today, I think.
For sure. And one of the things that I loved about the film, and it's exactly what you're talking about, is that relationship, that pure relationship, and the relationship between them. It comes across even in their initial connection and their banter between them, how they speak to one another, how they manage to, even though their age differences are so great, they manage to make this beautiful connection with, I'll say also on screen, amazing chemistry.
Yes, and to me, the real hero of the film is the doctor, I think. Maybe because I'm his age now, and I'm a man and he's a man, so maybe I can identify myself more to him. But if you imagine that he lost everybody, I mean, losing parents and losing children is different. It's probably different. It's not comparable. So his loss is maybe even bigger, and you heal faster when you are young, probably. So his way is harder and longer. And then finally he found somebody. He found a soulmate who is intelligent enough, who is funny, who is clever, who is a new beginning. This girl. And because of this age difference and because of the impossibility, it can only stay a stepdaughter. And every father has a natural jealousy for the daughter, for biological daughter as well. Imagine the moment when your daughter shows up with the new boyfriend and they ask for the car to go out. You are jealous as a father, not really jealous, but afraid and caring and like. And then imagine his position, and when this girl is, she's approaching too close, and the doctor knows that this relationship is in danger because there are so many threats around them, from the school, from the landlord of the house, from the from the doctor friend who has to report on somebody for the party. So this paranoia dictatorship, which you can compare to North Korea today, for instance, he knows he has to stop this, and he has to find someone, a new woman, to let her away. So artificially, she cuts these bonds between them. And he becomes a weekend stepfather or a grandfather or some kind of other figure, and he kind of loses her. So I think it's a nostalgic ending. It's a happy end in a way, but in another way, it's a very, very sad ending of a man's sacrifice.
We'll get to that ending soon. One of the things I wanted to talk about, actually, this film became more relevant since the last time we spoke, which was before this pandemic. The notion of post-trauma, which is something that I think we're all going to experience to some extent now, but of course, back then, the post-trauma of the war is something that connects both of them. And it's something that's relevant to life today. I mean, this is a modern, post-trauma is a modern term. It's not a term that I think that they even had back then. Maybe they did to some degree. And I'm wondering about telling the story from today's relevance. Did you want to make it relevant to people today? Or did you want to take just a historic perspective?
No. I know I wanted to make it relevant today. I hope every good movie is relevant to today, even if it's a period drama. And I met members of the audience almost all around the world who are much younger even than I am. And for instance, there was a young ex-soldier who served in Iraq. He was maybe about 30. Last year we met, and he served 9 years, and he had this post-war trauma, and he told me that movie that was just what he needed right now, because it meant him so much, and he realized that his soul was broken in that nuclear submarine or whatever he explained to me. So it's nothing to do with Jewish culture, nothing to do with Second World War or communism. So you know, you can lose anybody in cancer, in car accident, and you know, life continues for the survivors. So I hope this movie worked on a more universal level. These issues dealing with losing people and finding new perspectives or new goals in life, or just new feelings for somebody with the same feelings. The main idea of this movie is you can survive anything if you have somebody to take care of. And the working title of the movie was Someone to Live For. I think it sums up a little bit this idea that you can live as long as you have someone to love or to take care of.
That's beautiful. I have two more questions, and then I know there's a lot of questions from the audience, so we're going to get to those. And also let you sleep, by the way. It's 11:30 at night for Barnabás, sorry. 11:30.
Okay. No problem, thank you.
So I wanted to talk about faith in the film, religion. And it's not actually said exactly where they're coming from, which is also, I like that it's kind of like, these are the people, these are who they are, and you didn't have to label them. But I felt like these are both people who had lost their faith, but possibly came from faith in the past. Can you talk a little bit about their connection to faith?
Yes, the book says much more about it, so I know more than you do, because I had the chance to read the book, obviously. So the backstory of the doctor is that his father was a rabbi. So he grew up in a very religious Jewish family, but because of the Holocaust, he not only lost all his family, but his faith. He lost probably his connection to God, not only the religious gestures and these the celebrations and the rules and the habits of religion, but even faith in God. He kind of lost it for years. For the girl, it's not really precise. She's Jewish, obviously, as well, from both sides, and she survived in a ghetto. But also she lost everybody. But I'm not sure she was a believer before. I don't really know. But the path of the doctor is more interesting, because he says at one point, the first night when she sleeps over, he says something like, "I don't know anymore," and then when she gets sick, he starts praying. He's the one who prays in the kitchen in the dark, and the grandmother, the aunt, is so happy to see a man praying in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So he has this change. I think because of her, he kind of gains back something of his faith.
Excellent. My last question, which is on more on a cinematic level before we open it to questions from the audience. The light in the film, and I'm sorry that people weren't seeing it on the big screen, and I recommend everybody to go, when it's out in a theater, to go check this out on the big screen, because it's such a beautiful film. And it's pretty dark, actually. You shot it with a pretty dark palette, and then towards the end, it gets much lighter and ending with this beautiful. It's like the first time we're seeing the light, and I wanted to know how you address the lighting throughout the film and the cinematography.
Yes, we had this intention to play a little bit with the amount of light and the colors as well. So the first half of the movie is dominated by brown and yellow and eventually black and every kind of dark things, which this very empty flat, which was given to this doctor when he came back from the camps from someone else, without furniture. So many people just had to move on a completely strange flat. And if you are a man living alone, you don't put flowers in it and colors and things on the wall. So actually we had to struggle with the set designer how to make this ugly flat kind of attractive visually. Because even if you show something which is empty and sad and man-like, it cannot be ugly and empty, because then the movie would look like really flat. So we had the cameraman had this idea of the curtain, which reflects flower shadows. So when the street light is on, it has this huge yellow shape on the wall with flower figures. So nothing is in the wall, but still something is on it. So it was a great idea. And as we move on with the story, we have more and more daylight, exteriors, sun. Eventually the sun comes out at one point. And by the end, we have blue on the wall, and the table is green, and Olgi has this red. So we kind of use this evolution of colors and light, yes.
And it gives it a sense of hope and of possibly a happy ending. Would you call it that?
To me, it's not a happy ending. I'm sorry to spoil. I leave everybody to their own solution or screenplay or find or I don't know, the best story is written in your head. I don't want to intervene with your own idea of what's happening in the end. But to me, I think this doctor kind of realizes in a way that there could have been something more, and she's now 21. He's still 45, but he has this new lady, she has this boyfriend. I think there is a big kind of melancholy and longing for her by the end, to me. But I didn't want to express it too directly, and if somebody doesn't agree with this, I'm very happy about it, and I don't want to force my solution to you. I think it's great when you can put your own story, your own, I cannot find the word, but your own idea of the ending of the story. It's always good to end the story with an open page, and you can draw your side, your last chapter. You can write yourself.
Thank you. I want to take some questions from the audience. I know there's a lot of them. and by the way, folks, if there's some of you that can't provide your questions in the chat, you can raise your hand both virtually or on screen, and we can try to see you. And this is a nice time, by the way, to go back also to see all the people in our community, because we like to connect everyone. I'm gonna hand things over. Our first question is from Susan Walsh. Susan, would you like to?
I want to tell you it was a wonderful film. I was really touched by it. So I have two quick questions. One is, do you know much about the history of children who were left like that? And secondly, to come back to what Isaac said at the beginning about the innocence, I was curious if you knew how much sexuality, burgeoning sexuality came across for her in this film. It did to me, the sort of flowering of a young girl. And I wondered if that was your intent.
Yes. For the first question about the fate of those children, the doctor visits this orphanage specialized on Jewish orphans who either survived in the ghetto, either came back somehow from any camps, which was almost impossible, as we know, or impossible. So many people were adopted. Many people were sent to Palestine, to Israel, and usually they were adopted by Jewish survivors who lost their children. For example, like the other doctor, they lost 3 biological children and adopted 2 new ones. So that's my answer, but I'm not a specialist on the issue. So that's more or less all that I know about this. And the second thing is, yes, there is, of course, from the girl's side, there is this blooming sexuality all the time. And in the book, at one point, she says something like, or although, please show me how I can be your wife. I don't know how to be, but I want to be. So, and they are sitting on the sofa, on the couch together, really close. And he's so embarrassed. And, but I didn't want to go too much in this direction. But yes, she's kind of very, I mean, the man, the doctor, is very reserved about this and shy, even though he's a gynecologist. It's said in the book that his wife was much funnier and open and talkative about sexual issues than he is. And he had 2 boys, so he doesn't have any experience about raising daughters. So he's double shy or triple shy about it. But she's curious, and she has this body who is curious as well. So it's a very interesting game that they could play, but they don't, obviously. Fortunately, yes.
Next, we have a question from David Grubin. David.
I wanted to know why you ended with the shot of the young woman when you could have ended with the shot of the doctor.
Yes, there are multiple reasons. First is I wanted to end it on a happier tone, on something which is perspectively positive and open. A young woman traveling on a bus somewhere, it's a new beginning in a way. Meanwhile, if I left there this family photo with in the middle, the doctor who is very sad, it's like the same way as I started the movie. So it would be a circle which closes. I wanted to leave this circle open. The other reason is much more technical and a bit personal, because I was writing this last scene on the screenplay that she's on the bus, it's a cloudy day, the camera approaches her face, and the sun comes out behind her. And the day of the shooting, it was a cloudy day, we started shooting that take, camera approached her, and the sun came out behind her in the window. So I told myself, that's a sign that I have to leave this in the film. It's a miracle.
I have a question, Kate Ganzer. Kate, are you there? Would you like to ask your question? There you go. You've been unmuted.
Okay. I think you answered it already, that about the pair sleeping in the same bed. And why did you choose to do that versus having them? I mean, it would still be intimate to have them sleeping in separate beds in the same room at that age. And also was a different question. Was Clara married? I think you've also touched on this. Was Clara married in the final scene to her boyfriend?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't clear.
So then again, sleeping in the same bed, it was her idea, and he's so nice that he cannot say no to her for anything. But he's clear about the rules: separate sheet, separate how you call cover, how you call it that you think you cover with yourself, blanket,
sheet,
separate pillow, no touch, no nothing. And it's it's nicer to shoot them, the same camera. You put it above the bed and you have both of them. And it was in the book, it was like this. And at that moment, at the last scene for the celebration of the birthday of the aunt, Olgi, no, they are not married yet. Actually, in the book goes much longer. All the characters are fictional, but they are mixture of existing people from the family of the author. And she had 30 members of her family executed in the camps. So her family from both sides is heavily involved in the Holocaust. But there was no such a person as Aldo in her family or Clara. But as I said, it's a combination of existing people. And she tells their story until the mid-60s. I end the film in the mid-50s, Stalin's death, 53, but the story goes until 67. So we get to know that Clara gets married to this guy. They have a aborted baby, or how you call it, a miscarriage, once or twice. Then they separate, and then she has a new husband, but no child. So that's the fate of Clara in the book.
Next question is from Abraham Cohen, who's coming live from San Francisco. I'm just kidding, because Abraham's background you'll see in a moment. Abraham.
Okay, how do I get on the screen?
You're there.
I need to what?
We hear you, you're there.
Oh, okay. First of all, thank you very much for making the movie. I really enjoyed it. I cried at the end, so that means it got to me. I wanted to ask you about some of the subtleties, whether they were intentional. So for example, when you show the doctor and you show the number on his arm, you show it for a very brief moment, which I guess some people will get, other people will totally miss. The other subtlety that I noticed was with respect to the prayer in Hebrew for healing Clara. Again, another subtlety that unless you translate it or whatever, most people would not get it. So I wondered whether that was your style or what was behind that?
It's complex. First of all, it's my style probably. I like subtle things. I don't like too direct messages. Second thing, it's my timidity to visualize the Holocaust and not to fall in traps and to stereotypes. And the third thing is I'm not Jewish, and I don't know that much about Jewish culture. And I didn't want to make a too Jewish movie, if you know what I mean.
Right.
By the fear of losing the majority of, for instance, the Hungarian audience, who would say, oh, another Holocaust movie, oh, another film from the Jewish to the Jewish, I'm not going to see it. So there is this kind of latent, not active and not evil, but still some kind of resistance and light hostility to this subject from the majority of, I guess, not only Hungarians, but I could say Polish and Czech, maybe even Germans or French or Americans. You know what I talk about. It's not anti-Semitism. It's not that. It's just we've seen 25 movies, 250 movies about the Holocaust. So why a new one? So that's something. That's kind of my kind of diplomatic side. But I prefer the first. The most important reason is this kind of subtlety. It's this kind of if you show it briefly, if you show it from far,
Right.
it gets deeper. It gets deeper.
Thank you.
And to connect to that, please, Ralph Seeger. Ralph, you have a question.
Yes. Okay, I'm unmuted. All right. In connection with your confession that you're not Jewish, I was just curious about the cast, the actors. Are any of the actors Jewish, actually?
And I'll add to that, were there any Jewish people involved with the film? Obviously, today in Hungary, it's a small population, and I don't know if maybe all of them are working in film, but
Yeah.
any Jewish
Well,
characters on this, was that necessary?
yes. Well, as in many fields which require, I don't know. So in the movie industry and theater and TV, there are more Jewish than in the coal mining, as you can imagine. So it's everywhere like this. So it's not unusual to work with Jewish people in the cinema in Hungary at all. In the crew, surprisingly, behind the camera, maybe the DOP was one, and yeah, maybe that's it, which is more kind of rare actually. From the actors, the doctor is not, surprisingly, is not Jewish, and the girl is Jewish from the father's side. So I would say half Jewish, and they are open to talk about it. I witnessed many Q&As with them, and sometimes they get this question and they answer openly. So I'm not denouncing them. I can try. It's not a secret. So yes.
This is really enlightening, and unfortunately all we have time for. I really want to thank you so much, Barnabás, for the film and for being a part of the conversation twice, because we've recorded this also in the past. I've learned some new things. I want to give a big thank you to all of you for being a part of this and for asking your questions. And I know there's a lot more to discuss about this film, which is really what makes it wonderful. We hope you'll join us in upcoming events, both at the JCC in general, but specifically for film. Do support us today as part of Giving Tuesday, and please note film that you heard about this through film so we could get our brownie points for that. And thank you so much for being a part of it. The most important thing is everyone, and this goes to you too, Barnabás, and please stay safe, stay well. Thank you all for staying with us during these challenging times, and watch good movies. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.